well, but this would give Alireza the opportunity to go on the counter offense of actually hitting the pinned knight on c5. Sure, you can take the knight on b5, but thank you very much. The bishop comes onto the game. You're hitting the queen. You're hitting the pawn. The white rook ready to swoop into the position. This is looking great for Alireza as well.
And this looks like it's about to happen. The queen move here is the key for white. He needs to just lift his queen up one square to b4 to maintain the big advantage. He doesn't go for it though. He trades off. Still better, still a pawn up, but now black has the bishop pair, at least as some solace here, some compensation.
Wow. This game is absolutely wild. The knight comes back, was hitting the bishop now defended. Yes, you're down a pawn. In compensation, the piece activity. The knight still though at the edge of the board for Arjun Erigaisi. For Alireza Firoujza, he's also got control on the D line. I'm still taking the extra pawn here.
A lot of complications, a lot to calculate as well for both of these players, and that's part of the reason why maybe those trades ended up having to take place so quickly. Arjun Erigaisi down to just over 4 minutes on the clock and forcing Firoujza to think about what he wants to do next. Light squared bishops get traded off now. Simplifying it probably favors the side with less time, and Arjun was very uncomfortable earlier, so if the position continues to slowly improve and he slowly starts to feel a little bit better about his prospects in this game, about the fact that he's not down so much on the clock, that can only be good for him.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, this is still an advantage for white. The eval bar says 0.7. That reflects the fact that he is one pawn up, but I do feel that Firoujza sold his advantage short, and that, as well as the added simplicity here, the clock scenario not as bad as it was for Arjun, gives some hope at least. A win for Firoujza in this game would be huge, so Arjun needs to lock this down, somehow work his way to a draw, but ultimately it is one of those two result positions. If he plays super well, Arjun wins back the pawn, he can hold, but it's very unlikely that black is going to win this game now.
It's a very practical decision here by Alireza. You know, he didn't want to take too much time on the clock. He went for a line that feels absolutely safe for white, and look at that, he doesn't even rush to capture the bishop. He doesn't want to spoil his pawn formation. Does not want to disconnect those pawns. He first lines up the rook on c1. He's about to capture that bishop with a piece, not a pawn.
Positionally, though, what that means is you're trading off all of your minor pieces, except for the one on the board that you moved to h5 on move 8. So there's a little bit of rebuilding that needs to happen positionally for Arjun Erigaisi here, because everything else is about to get traded off. Queen moves to a5, and you can't ignore the knight any longer.
And I just want to mention, Arjun missed this rook move. Like, his heart rate suddenly went up over 10 beats per minute. And yeah, he definitely missed this pin. It also caused him to spend 30 seconds, which he doesn't really have. We'll now see most likely a rook take this black bishop. There's still a pin, so there's no rush. But if we see a rook trade, queens and knights still on the board, white will have a passed c-pawn. Instead, he jumps forward, asking for some tactics, some trickery in the air. Maybe he'll just recapture this black bishop now with the white knight, just to keep his pawns intact.
Well, capture the bishop, not the pawn. The king would have slid over and started attacking the knight, which would have no place to retreat on the board. So now we see Arjun, in fact, retreating with the knight. Alireza has been successful in his mission of making sure that the pawn formation, that extra pawn on the queen flank, they remain intact. They're connected pawns. No weaknesses given to Arjun Erigaisi.
One pawn advantage, 1 minute and a bit advantage for Alireza here. Still going to be difficult though, a long, long road to conversion. Here it would be eased so much for white if there were a queen trade, but it still takes a few moves to try and initiate that. So he does lift up his queen, maybe he'll centralize her next. Rook trade possibly helps as well. I think the one thing to avoid, depends on the circumstances, is a knight trade. And rook endgames might be the one place where Arjun can seek some safety. In the meantime, the white queen hit, and might have to retreat, not too many safe squares. Ooh, flashy move.
Flashy.
Wow, okay.
Stylish.
Like that. Exclam given to it, of course. You're ignoring the safety of your own rook to give a check. So, of course, you have the option of a queen takes rook for both sides. Now, that will still equate to the exchange of rooks, so potentially simplifying the position there. Choosing instead to avoid all exchanges, and this is suddenly looking very, very good for Firoujza.
The pieces have infiltrated. The white queen centralizes. Maybe there was something even better there. The white rook could have slid into the far right corner there to the h8 square, threatening some checkmates, but still very, very strong here. The white queen, beautifully placed. The black knight was bad on h5. It's now totally immobilized on f6, and it's pinned. It's feeling uncomfortable. Firoujza definitely playing safety first chess, trying to get some quick moves on the board, maybe realizing 1.5 extra minutes on the clock is going to be like having a second pawn advantage, but still not out of this, Arjun. He's defended very well. Despite the fact he's still suffering, he's still in this game.
I'm surprised by that gear shift by Firoujza, you know, going forward and then retreats the queen, retreats the rook to keep things safe, when there were more active possibilities, something that, you know, we've seen Alireza do so many times. He could have gone for Arjun's king with the rook and queen lined up on that 8th rank. Now he's still got to build that attack or offer those trades. As all the pieces remain, it's far from over right now. You know, as long as there are knights on the board, anything can happen.
He's thinking about the clock. It's got to be. When you have the rook and the queen on the 8th, it's natural that I was looking across to figure out where we were going to be able to put those major pieces. It's like he just wants to sap even more time from Arjun Erigaisi and still keep the majors on the board and keep things as complex as possible. That's the explanation I can think of. I'm not sure there's anything else that makes sense at this point.
One pair of rooks are off the board, but why does weaken the king a little bit, you know, allowing Arjun perhaps the possibility to try to create some counterplay if the queen ever got in. That's why he says, that's not happening. Queen's off the board. This has got to be winning for Alireza now.
This has to be winning. Every bit of endgame wisdom we've ever been taught tells us that knight endgames are like pawn endgames. Imagine the knights are off the board. How do you evaluate that? Winning for white. 2 versus 1 on the queen side. We saw that earlier in their first game as well. With knights on the board, it's a bit more tricky. You need to avoid forks, but ultimately the knights should cancel each other out, and the white pawns should be running. He keeps going for this strategy. Win a pawn on the queen side, push those pawns, and tie down the opponent's knight. That worked in game 1. Will he get a win again in game 3 here? Alireza, the knight landing on the edge of the board. It should re-centralize in a moment, but Arjun down at 1 minute. That just compounds the misery.
Yeah, that's crucial now. It's going to be 2.5 minutes, playing just over 1 minute for the conclusion of this game. Remember, especially in time trouble, anything can happen. This really is high tension, especially for Erigaisi. It might be savable, but I think we're talking minor miracles kind of territory now.
Only a miracle can save Arjun in this. You know, the clock down under 1 minute now. It's gone red, but it's the least of his problem. That knight attacking the a6 pawn ties down the black knight. The white king now has a clear path ahead. Go on those dark squares, walk up the board. It needs to be stopped. King e5, king d6. That would be game over for Arjun Erigaisi.
Yeah, this is just a mathematical equation. White has an extra pawn. That pawn is going to cost black the knight, and white's going to have plenty of pawns left to promote and end this game. For now, the white king's road forward is blocked, but 2 minutes, plays under 1 minute still. Alireza here has plenty of time to conjure up a new plan.
And the new plan would involve getting the king inside the action. That is what he wants. He tries it from another route. He gets the king closer to the pawns. And what Arjun is trying to create is a passer of his own. If that f-pawn gets 1 step forward, there will be counterplay. Good enough or not, nobody knows. But it will force Alireza to think.
Well, he walks forward with his pawns, Alireza Firoujza. He's calculated that his pawn is racing through. If the black knight captures, the white knight will be hitting the e6 pawn in the process. It just feels too slow. Arjun's lacking the time to give up his knight and remove the rest of the pawns from the board. He will not get those trades, not get those pass pawns that he needs to create counterplay.
Just too slow on that right side and too slow on the clock. Now under 25 seconds, Arjun Erigaisi, he's considering that resignation button. Or will he play on? Will he find a way to keep this endgame going?
Hopeless, there's too many pawns. He tries one last trick, his only trick remaining, but look how that black pawn is too slow. The black knight was hit, now a capture. It's 4 versus 1 in terms of pawns. Arjun moves across to hit that resign button. Alireza takes a second win in this match.
Fantastic job applying the pressure, getting that additional pawn and converting that pressure into a victory. Firoujza takes this game and he moves within a win of a semi-final victory and moving on to the grand final. Still all to play for, but 2.5 to a half is an extremely strong score at this point.
This has been a dominating match by Alireza so far with the white pieces. You know, Arjun had that one opportunity with black and he was completely winning. And I think that has a role to play here as well.